Robert Mueller drops the mic, Democrats pick it up, and did President Trump hide the USS John McCain? It's like an entire ship. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. A lot going on in the news, most of it chaotic and confusing, but don't worry, we will iron it all out for you when you leave today. You will be just graced with a clarity that never before had descended upon you. So prepare for yourself for that. It's going to be amazing. But first, hiring used to be difficult. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. Today, hiring can be easy. You only have to go to one place to get it done. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates, so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the very first day. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That is ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is indeed the smartest way to hire if you are looking to upgrade your business or you're just looking to bring in some new employees. The best way to do it, ZipRecruiter, going to save you time, going to save you money. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire and try them out for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. All right, so it is the day after Robert Mueller's big press conference. Ooh! And Mueller spoke, and it was amazing, and the heads exploded. And okay, so let's analyze what exactly Robert Mueller said, because everybody seems a little more confused today than they were yesterday, because Mueller did not clarify anything. In fact, Mueller basically just threw fuel on the fire of impeachment talk without actually adding any new information to the mix. There was no real reason for his statement. The only thing I think it revealed is that the purpose of his investigation was always confused and confusing. So I want to go through what Mueller actually said, because there were a few key messages in his valedictory speech. So he began his statement by recognizing that his original brief was to investigate Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. Here's what Mueller had to say. This was his original brief. Remember, this is why he was hired. Okay, it wasn't really about obstruction. He was hired specifically with regard to the Trump-Russia collusion stuff, the first half of his report, where he basically found nothing of importance.
2 years ago, the acting attorney general asked me to serve as special counsel, and he created the special counsel's office. The appointment order directed the office to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. This included investigating any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. As alleged by the grand jury in an indictment, Russian intelligence officers who were part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system.
Yep, it is. So this was his original brief. His original brief was the Russia stuff. And then it quickly morphed into the obstruction stuff. And that is the stuff we are talking about today. Why? Because the Russia stuff turned out to be basically nothing. And this is what's got Trump fulminating this morning. After 2 years of hearing that he was a Russian tool, now the case is that Donald Trump was involved in obstruction of the fact that he was not, in fact, a Russian tool. And he's very upset about all of this, and I think rightly so. So President Trump tweeted out this morning about this. Russia, Russia, Russia. That's all you heard at the beginning of this witch hunt hoax. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. It was a crime that didn't exist. So now the Dems and their partner, the fake news media, say he fought back against this phony crime that didn't exist, this horrendous false accusation, and he shouldn't fight back. He should sit back and take it. Could this be obstruction? No. Mueller didn't find obstruction either. Presidential harassment! Exclamation point. Now, I don't think there's a lot in this tweet that is deeply wrong. The phraseology that people are using against Trump here is actually from that first tweet. In that first tweet, Trump says, I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. And people are jumping on the phraseology, Russia helping me to get elected, because this is Trump's first admission that Russia was trying to get him elected, something that he has denied for a very long time. That's also Trump just being awkward on Twitter, because that's what Trump does for a living. Trump clarified this in a statement to the press afterward. He said, Russia didn't help me get elected. Russia was just trying to interfere with the election. So he's trying to walk back what he said on his tweet. All of this is not useful to the president, at the very least.
No, Russia did not help me get elected. You know who got me elected? You know who got me elected? I got me elected. Russia didn't help me at all. Russia, if anything, I think, helped the other side. What you ought to ask is this. Do you think the media helped Hillary Clinton get elected? She didn't make it. But you take a look at collusion between Hillary Clinton and the media. You take a look at collusion between Hillary Clinton and Russia. She had more to do in the campaign with Russia than I did. I had nothing to do.
I helped get me elected is pretty astonishing stuff. That's pretty good stuff. Okay, meanwhile, the second message that Mueller put forward really, and this is where I think Trump does have a right to be somewhat outraged by the extent of the investigation, is that it really never should have included obstruction. And Mueller was giving these mixed messages yesterday in his farewell message here. These mixed messages about why he was investigating obstruction in the first place. So he moved on to this explanation. Unlike the election interference investigation, which started as a counterintelligence investigation inside the FBI, the obstruction investigation began as a criminal investigation. It was not an investigation of Russia. It was an investigation of Trump and his associates for criminal activity. But Mueller said yesterday he did not actually have the authority to conclude that investigation. Mueller said regarding Russian interference that it was critical to obtain a full and accurate information from every person they questioned. But he also explained that the president can't be charged with a federal crime. So if he can't be charged with a federal crime, then what exactly were you investigating? Like, you don't have, the police cannot investigate me for a crime that doesn't exist and that I can't be charged for. That is not their purview. And yet here was Mueller saying, I knew from the very start I could not indict the sitting president. So then what the hell was he doing?
Long-standing department policy. A president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Even if the charge is kept under seal and hidden from public view, that too is prohibited. The special counsel's office is part of the Department of Justice, and by regulation, it was bound by that department policy. Charging the president with a crime was therefore not an option we could consider.
Okay, so then what were you doing, right? Everybody's looking around today going, so what was this all about? If you could not consider a prosecution at any point, and you were unwilling to recommend impeachment straight out or say that the president committed a crime straight out, he wasn't even willing to say the president committed a crime in the absence of the DOJ statute. He didn't even do that, right? He just said, I'm not going to come to a conclusion on that because I can't indict. And because I can't indict, I'm not going to formally accuse the president, right? This is the second thing. This is the sort of second aspect of this. He says the DOJ cannot even utilize the criminal justice system to formally accuse the president if he can't be indicted. This is 2D. Here's Mueller explaining that one.
The opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing.
Okay, so then what were you doing? What was this all about? And this is what drives the actual reason for thinking that Mueller was looking for impeachment. He has no other rationale for doing this. He himself says, I can't indict him. I can't even accuse him such that an indictment would be appropriate. So if I can't do either of those things, then why am I doing this? So he says, well, maybe we're doing it because we need to make sure that the memories are fresh. Memories of what? Evidence of what? Right, here's his excuse for the investigation.
The opinion explicitly permits the investigation of a sitting president because it is important to preserve evidence while memories are fresh and documents available. That evidence could be used if there were co-conspirators who could be charged now.
But there were no co-conspirators charged now in obstruction. There were no crimes alleged by Mueller. So then what the hell was all of this about? The answer is what this really was about is impeachment. Right? That's really what this was about. He said that there was a process, but the process was basically constitutional in nature. In other words, I did this as a predicate to impeachment. I think it's the only way to read Mueller's press conference, which means that he was acting as a tool for the legislative branch inside the executive branch, which is unconstitutional. He's a member of he's a member of the executive branch. The executive branch is unitary. He does not work for Congress. He works for the president. People who work for the president typically are not charged with investigating the president. This is why for a long time there was something called the Independent Counsel Act, which made a member of the executive branch subject to the legislature. And Justice Scalia famously wrote that he thought that this was unconstitutional, that the idea of having an independent counsel who doesn't really work for the president and also doesn't really work for the Congress, that creates a weird fourth branch of government that doesn't really exist. So the only takeaway from this is basically that Mueller wanted Trump to go down, but he wouldn't call for prosecution. Here's Mueller explaining that effectively.
There was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime. We concluded that we would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime.
What in the world? I mean, it's an amazing statement, right? What he's saying here is we weren't willing to charge a crime. We couldn't charge a crime because of indictment, but we're not going to exonerate the president. That was 1 minute after he said this quote. It would be unfair to potentially accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge. And then he proceeded to say, well, I can't exonerate him. So he pulled a James Comey. Now, you remember that James Comey, the former FBI director, basically went out there and said, Hillary Clinton is guilty as sin, but I'm changing the law in order to let her off the hook. And a lot of folks are like, whoa, that seems wildly inappropriate. Why exactly is he doing that? And a lot of people called for James Comey to be fired based on that. I was one of them. Now you have Robert Mueller basically doing the same thing. You have Mueller doing the exact same thing. Okay, so Mueller, I think, actually dragged himself through the mud here. I think he dragged himself through the mud. Now, there's one thing that he said that I think cut in favor of the Attorney General, Bill Barr, who's also become a target of Democrats. We'll get to that in just a second. First, did you know that millennials have 3 times as much student debt as their parents? That's not right. But you could get your student loans right now by refinancing your loans with SoFi. SoFi is the leading student loan refinancer in the United States. A lot of folks need to refinance those student loans. People have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Well, SoFi has refinanced hundreds of thousands of student loans. It's fast, it's easy, it's all online. You can check your rate in 2 minutes. You can lock in a fixed low rate. Refinancing that student loan, it could save you thousands of dollars. Lowering your interest rate or choosing one of SoFi's flexible terms could help you save thousands of bucks. When you refinance your student loans with SoFi, you also get access to SoFi membership. I know we have a lot of people who listen to the show who have student debt. Well, why would you be paying a higher interest rate when you don't have to? Giving you access to exclusive benefits to help you get ahead with your money, life, and career is something SoFi can do for you. Lock in a fixed low rate today at SoFi.com/Ben. That's SoFi.com/Ben. SoFi.com/Ben. And there are a lot of burdens that come along with having enormous amounts of student debt. Get those refinanced and clear up money for other things that you want to do. SoFi Lending Corp, CFL number 605-4612. Go check them out right now at SoFi.com/Ben. That's SoFi.com/Ben. Alrighty, so back to Robert Mueller. The one thing that Mueller said that cut in favor of the Trump administration is he basically suggested that Bill Barr, the Attorney General, was not trying to hide anything. Here's his explanation of this.
We conducted an independent criminal investigation and reported the results to the Attorney General, as required by department regulations. The Attorney General then concluded that it was appropriate to provide our report to Congress and to the American people. At one point in time, I requested that certain portions of the report be released. The Attorney General preferred to make the entire report public all at once, and we appreciate that the Attorney General made the report largely public, and I certainly do not question the Attorney General's good faith in that decision.
Okay, so there he is undercutting the Democratic line that Bill Barr has been lying to them consistently. The Attorney General of the United States has been lying consistently. Now, the media are not letting go the idea that Bill Barr lied. So they've been playing on a loop these sort of contradictions between Robert Mueller's statement and William Barr's statements before Congress. So there are a couple of contrasts between the statements that we have to analyze to see who's lying or who's telling the truth or if there's really any conflict to begin with. I'll point out that the supposed conflicts were cleared up quasi, in a way, by Carrie Kupek, the spokeswoman for the Department of Justice, and Peter Carr, the spokesman for the Special Counsel's Office. They released a joint statement right after Mueller's statement. They said, quote, "The Attorney General has previously stated that the special counsel repeatedly affirmed that he was not saying that, but for the OLC opinion, he would have found the president obstructed justice. The special counsel's report and his statement today made clear that the office concluded it would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime. There is no conflict between these statements. I pointed this out yesterday in our analysis that when Mueller said that the DOJ regulations prohibited him from reaching a conclusion, that did not actually contradict the statement made by Barr that Mueller said that even in the absence of the OLC ruling, he might not have prosecuted the president. There is no conflict between those 2 points. But let's play some of these clips back to back, Barr versus Mueller, on, for example, the evidence of collusion, because there does seem to be some shading that is going on here. Here's William Barr talking about the evidence of collusion versus what Robert Mueller had to say about evidence of collusion.
The special counsel's report did not find any evidence that members of the Trump campaign or anyone associated with the campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these hacking operations. In other words, there was no evidence of the Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking.
The first volume of the report details numerous efforts emanating from Russia to influence the election. This volume includes a discussion of the Trump campaign's response to this activity, as well as our conclusion that there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy.
Okay, those two things are not actually in conflict. So you have Mueller saying that there is insufficient evidence of conspiracy. That is a softer thing than no evidence of collusion. But conspiracy and collusion are two different things. Conspiracy is an actual criminal charge. Collusion is a general political accusation. So when Barr says there's no evidence of collusion, that's correct. And when Mueller says there's insufficient evidence of conspiracy, that is also correct, because conspiracy is a criminal charge. Collusion is not a legal term. So the purported conflict between Barr and Mueller on this point, I don't find particularly convincing. In a second, we'll get to the other supposed conflict between Barr and Mueller. So there's another conflict supposedly between William Barr, the Attorney General's testimony, and what Robert Mueller said in his statement yesterday. And this one surrounded obstruction of justice. So here's what Barr had to say versus what Mueller had to say.
After carefully reviewing the facts and legal theories outlined in the report, and in consultation with the Office of Legal Counsel and other department lawyers, the Deputy Attorney General and I concluded that the evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime.
Okay, those two things, again, are not in conflict. When William Barr says right there that the obstruction of justice evidence isn't sufficient for a prosecution, that is the same thing, effectively, as Robert Mueller saying, we can't exonerate him, but also we didn't recommend prosecution. Again, Barr was using a legal standard, and Mueller is going further than that. I think that President Trump, frankly, has reason to be angry at Robert Mueller. I'm a little more upset at Robert Mueller today than I have been for a couple of years. I've been very much in Robert Mueller's corner. I believe that this is a guy who is trying to do his job. But I think it appeared from his statements yesterday that he surpassed his original brief, and that his original brief was not supposed to encompass a lot of the stuff that he ended up doing. If Congress wants to investigate this stuff, that is their purview. They have every right to do that. But to effectively become a tool for impeachment was beyond his mandate. That was beyond the scope of his mandate. Now, what has happened, effectively speaking, is that all of this has now been tossed into the lap of Congress, which is where it should have begun in the first place. If Democrats want to impeach, they have every ability to do that. The media were blowing this up, suggesting that Robert Mueller had now made the case for impeachment. The editorial board over at the Washington Post says, quote, Special Counsel Robert Mueller broke his long silence Wednesday, telling a news conference that his 2-year Russia investigation is closed and that he did not have anything to say publicly beyond what was written in the report. But the key passages he chose to highlight underlined the dishonesty of President Trump and Attorney General William Barr in seeking to dodge and mischaracterize his conclusions. The central allegations of the investigators, Mueller said, was that there were multiple systematic efforts to interfere in our elections, yet to date, it has not been fully acknowledged by Mr. Trump. Okay, that's fair enough. Trump has constantly said that he doesn't think that it was important that Russia basically interfered in the election. That's a fair criticism, but that's not really a criticism of Barr. Then the Washington Post says, Mr. Barr claimed there was not a case to be made against Mr. Trump for obstruction of justice based on Mueller's findings. So it's significant that Mueller restated what his report actually says, that if we had confidence the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. Again, those two things are not in conflict. This is the Washington Post creating a falsehood. When Barr says there was not a case to be made, that it was not sufficiently prosecutable, that is not in conflict with Mueller saying that we can't exonerate. We can't exonerate and we can prosecute are two very different terms. We can't exonerate O.J. Simpson, but we also can't prosecute him. He's already been acquitted. There are a lot of reasons why you can't prosecute someone who also cannot be exonerated. This happens legitimately all the time in the American criminal justice system. Mr. Mueller could have avoided much confusion and short-circuited the administration's attempt to manipulate public opinion, says the Washington Post, if he had made his statement weeks ago. in conjunction with the release of a lightly redacted version of his report. So the Washington Post continues to try to claim that there's some cover-up that went on, even though Mueller explicitly said that there was no cover-up that went on in the middle of this press conference. The left is basically hoping to hang their hat on Mueller's press conference. And what's amazing is that they continue to call out for Mueller to do the work they won't do. Here's the problem for the Democrats and for the left now. The ball is in their court, and they don't actually want the ball in their court. They want Mueller to come back. It's like the end of Shane. You got Brandon Wilder out there on the plains shouting out for Shane to come back. There's a Robert. I mean, just calling across the plain, and Mueller is just riding away into that painted distance. That's all that's going on here. Like Robert De Niro, it's so funny. Robert De Niro, why he has an opinion column in the New York Times is beyond me. Robert De Niro is most famous for reading lines other people write for him. But he played Mueller on SNL, and this apparently means he has expertise on obstruction. The power of celebrity, man. Pretty incredible. So Robert De Niro has a piece in the New York Times called Robert Mueller, We Need to Hear More. And it's an open letter to Robert Mueller from Robert De Niro in the New York Times. Yes, everything is insanely stupid. It says, Dear Mr. Mueller, it probably hasn't escaped your attention that I play a version of you on Saturday Night Live. Yes, because that was deeply important to Robert Mueller. I'm sure he sits up every night thinking about you. As Robert Mueller, my character is intimidating because he is so honest and upright. I do it for comic effect. That's the intention anyway, but there's also a lot of truth to it. To put it another way, it's good-natured fun, but not entirely good-natured. There's a level of satire directed at the current administration. To be fair, not everyone appreciates the humor. The president has tweeted there's nothing funny about tired Saturday Night Live, and that it's very unfair and should be looked into. The what or with whom the show would be colluding is unclear, but then I don't have to tell you about problems with the terms collusion. You barely mention the word in your report, and then only to explain why you're not using it. That could be a punchline on Saturday Night Live. How does this crap get through the editorial process at the New York Times? Truly, this is incoherent gibberish. I'm so glad Robert is like Martin Sheen sounding off on presidential executive orders because he once played a president on television. It's a joke in and of itself. Robert De Niro says, as I prepared for my role on the show, I got to know you a lot better. I read about your lifetime devotion to public service and your respect for the rule of law. I watched how you presided over the special counsel's office, apparently without leaks, and you never wavered, even in the face of regular vicious attacks from the president and his surrogates. While I and so many Americans have admired your quiet, confident, dignified response in ignoring that assault, it allowed the administration to use its own voice to control the narrative. There's a lot of speculation about the president being tone deaf to facts, but there's not much disagreement about the tone. Whether you take delight in it, as his loyal supporters do, or you're the unfortunate target of his angry rhetoric, the hostile way he expresses himself registers with anyone. Say what you will about the president, and I have. When it comes to that lying, exaggerating, bullying thing, no one can touch him. And here, Mr. Mueller, is where you come in, where you need to come in. In your news conference, you said that your investigations work speaks for itself. It doesn't. It may speak for itself to lawyers and lawmakers who have the patience and obligation to read through the more than 400 pages of carefully chosen words and nuanced conclusions. You've characterized the report as your testimony, but you wouldn't accept that reason from anyone your office interviewed. Additional information and illumination emerge from responses to questions. I know you're uncomfortable in the spotlight, as the president is out of it. I know you don't want to become part of the political spectacle. I know you will, however, reluctantly testify before Congress if called, because you respect the system and follow the rules. So much heroism. You are the voice of the Mueller report. Let the country hear that voice with great respect. Robert De Niro. Come back. Come back, Shane. Why won't you just why? Why won't you just, please, come back? Robert, it's just, oh my goodness. It's just amazing. Just amazing stuff. Well, Mueller isn't coming back, and his report does say what it says, and that means that it's basically up to the Democrats now whether they want to impeach. We're going to get to that in just 1 second. First, for decades, credit cards have been telling us buy it now and pay it later with interest. Despite your best intentions, that interest can get out of control fast. With Lending Club, you can consolidate your debt or pay off credit cards with one fixed monthly payment. Since 2007, Lending Club has helped millions of people regain control of their finances with affordable, fixed-rate personal loans. No trips to a bank, no high-interest credit cards. Just go to lendingclub.com. You tell them about yourself, how much you want to borrow. Pick the terms that are right for you, and if you're approved, your loan is automatically deposited into your bank account in as little as a few days. Lending Club is the #1 peer-to-peer lending platform with over $35 billion in loans issued. Go to lendingclub.com/Ben. Check your rate in minutes, borrow up to $40,000. No reason you should be suffering with those high interest rates. Get your finances in order. Head on over to lendingclub.com/Ben. That is lendingclub.com/Ben. All loans made by WebBank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Again, that's lendingclub.com/Ben. Doesn't take very long to find out how much you can get and what your rate is. Check your rate in minutes, borrow up to 40 grand. That's lendingclub.com/Ben, lendingclub.com/Ben. All right, so the left has now responded to all of this. They now recognize that impeachment is what's on the table. This was best summed up by Chris Matthews. I must say, last night I got very excited after Mueller's statement. Get up, come into the show, come on in here, listen to Robert Mueller talk. Pretty amazing. And then we talk about impeachment. Love impeachment. Pretty great. Like peaches, impeaching, all sorts of great things. Go.
For months now, they've said, well, we just want to hear from this, or we just want to hear from the Senate. We need a Republican senator, or we want to hear from another witness. We want to hear from Papadopoulos. Who else want to hear from? Carter Page? They want to hear from Mueller? They're not going to hear from Mueller. This is it. So the train whistle's blowing, and Pelosi's got to make a decision. And it can't be a waiting game like I'm being audited, like Trump plays. It can't be a game of kicking the can down the road. It's now or no or never. And I think that's the tough question for her. It's always been, are you willing to say no to impeachment? And I think it's totally up in the air what she's going to do.
I mean, the train is leaving the station. I love trains. They go choo-choo and chugga-chugga. If you're not on that train, you're in front of the train. Nancy Pelosi, are you going to be on the train? Nancy Pelosi? Get on the train, Nancy. Or don't get on the train. I don't care. I'm going to go back home and play with my trains. Chris Matthews, I'm going to say. So, but he's not wrong. I'm mocking him because he's Chris Matthews. But he is not, in fact, incorrect. What Mueller did here, he basically said, okay, Congress, this one's on you. Enjoy yourself. And Nancy Pelosi has not a lot of taste for this. According to McClatchy, most congressional Democrats heard one message in Robert Mueller's public statement on Wednesday: it's up to you to punish President Donald Trump. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signaled unwillingness on Wednesday to take a leap that many on the political left have already made: impeachment. Investigating and potentially impeaching Trump dominated Capitol Hill talk on Wednesday, both behind closed doors where influential Democrats urged starting an inquiry and out loud among progressives demanding action. Pelosi did not utter the word Wednesday in a terse 5-paragraph statement issued 2 hours after Mueller left it to Congress to investigate Trump further. The Congress holds sacred its constitutional responsibility to investigate and hold the president accountable for his abuse of power. The Congress will continue to investigate and legislate to protect our elections and secure our democracy. The American people must have the truth. Blah, 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 blah. Now, the reality is that the House Judiciary Committee has not been calling the proper witnesses. They've not been subpoenaing the proper witnesses. They've not been asking the proper questions. In fact, it is not even clear that they are going to subpoena Robert Mueller in all of this. There are rumors floating around Capitol Hill yesterday that even Democrats don't want Mueller to testify for a couple of reasons. One, Mueller may get up there and say, yeah, I didn't reach a determination on obstruction. That's up to you guys. I'm not going to sit here and do your work for you. I was not allowed to do that by the rules of the DOJ, and I didn't reach a conclusion. So maybe Democrats don't want to hear that message. There's also the possibility that I was hearing that Democrats are concerned that Mueller will look bad in front of Republicans who will say, okay, so why did you even do this stuff in the first place if the DOJ prohibited you from the very beginning from either recommending an indictment or indicting yourself? Here's Jerry Nadler yesterday basically acknowledging that he is not interested in calling Robert Mueller, which is an amazing switch for the Democrats. Remember, Robert Mueller was the most important person to hear from for the Democrats for 2 years. For 2 years, they were buying votive candles. For 2 years, they were suggesting that Robert Mueller is going to save them from Trump. And even for the past 2 months, since William Barr released his 4-page letter, the Democrats have been claiming that we need to hear directly from Mueller. Well, Mueller spoke yesterday for a grand total of about 9 minutes and 40 seconds. And that's all that they're going to get. And Democrats apparently are satisfied with that, which suggests maybe they know they're not going to get much more out of Mueller that is going to benefit them. Here's Nadler, the head of the House Judiciary Committee, effectively saying, yeah, I'm not interested in calling Mueller at this point.
Will you subpoena Mueller to testify then?
Mr. Mueller told us a lot of what we need to hear today. It's very important to be clear on what he told us, on what the special prosecutor told the American people. He reaffirmed what was in the investigation, which was in the report about the investigation, which found substantial evidence that Russia attacked our political system, that the Trump campaign benefited from Russia's interference, that Trump and those around him repeatedly welcomed Russia's support, and that throughout the investigation, Trump sought to obstruct justice and undermine Mueller and the investigation over and over again.
Okay, well, again, he's saying, I'm not going to call Mueller. We got all we need. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But here's the reality. The Democrats are not going to do anything here. They're not going to do anything here. They're going to smear Trump. They're going to suggest that Trump engaged in obstruction of justice. the 2020 Democrats are going to suggest that Trump is impeachable without actually having to own all of this. Kamala Harris yesterday said, absolutely, we've got to impeach. And she's indicative of the general Democratic mindset at this point.
What was the message that Mr. Mueller was sending to you, a sitting member of Congress? And do you have a reaction to the president's tweet saying that this case is closed and nothing has changed?
Well, I try not to respond to those tweets, but I will say that I think what is clear is that I think it's a fair inference from what we heard in that press conference that Bob Mueller was essentially referring impeachment to the United States Congress.
Okay, so she actually went further than that on MSNBC. She actually said that President Trump should be prosecuted and locked up. So we have shifted from lock her up to lock him up. And Kamala Harris has a long history of attempting to lock people up, many times unjustly. Here is Kamala Harris saying that the president should go to jail.
I am also clear from reading what he wrote in that report that the only reason they did not return an indictment against this president on obstruction of justice is because of an opinion from the Department of Justice that suggests that you cannot indict a sitting president. But there is no question that the evidence supports a prosecution of that case. So taking it to the point of your next question, absolutely.
Okay, so this is easy for the 2020 candidates to say. It's not so easy for Nancy Pelosi. They are going to slow play it. Despite Chris Matthews saying that it's time for the Democrats to poop or get off the pot, they are not going to do that. Nancy Pelosi is going to slow play this. Nancy Pelosi is not interested in moving forward with impeachment. She's got too many moderate members of her own caucus who exist in suburban areas where the vote is closely split, and she's deeply afraid that those people lose their seats. As McClatchy reports, Representative Lucy McBath, a Georgia Democrat who won her seat last year with 50.5% in a district Trump narrowly won in 2016, refuses to mention impeachment. She says, we need the full Mueller report, its underlying evidence. We need this administration to stop stonewalling Congress, blah, 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 blah. The Democrats in moderate areas are not going to talk impeachment. Pelosi knows it. There is not the support in the Democratic caucus for impeachment right now. So all this has become is just more political fodder, which means in the end, it doesn't mean anything. The American people are tired of this. The American people are not interested in impeachment. The American people are bored with this story. The American people already came away with the proper conclusion. Trump was not exonerated on obstruction because he's not prosecutable on it, and also this stuff is not impeachable. That is the exact right conclusion. Democrats are not on board with it because it doesn't fit their story, but it is the reality, and Nancy Pelosi knows that full well. In a second, we'll get to some other Democratic strategies for 2020 that are, I think, kind of scary for some of America's freedoms. We'll get to that in just a second. First, getting fit, staying healthy, it always sounds easier said than done, right? Well, OpenFit is bringing you something new that makes it even easier never to miss a sweat session, lose the commute to the gym, let the workouts come to you. Okay, I love OpenFit. My wife works really long hours. I work some pretty long hours too. One of the things we like to do at night, we get home, we open up OpenFit, and then we work out together. OpenFit takes all the complexity out of losing weight and getting fit. It's a brand new, super simple streaming service that allows you to work out from the comfort of your living room in as little as 10 minutes a day. Everybody's bodies are different. OpenFit gets that. That's why it's personalized to your needs with custom-tailored original content. OpenFit classes are led by some of the most effective and engaging trainers in the world. The training sessions are really terrific. Forget all the complexity and stress around getting fit. Just press play and work out on your schedule. View on your computer, web-enabled TV, tablet, smartphone, and Roku. Lose up to 15 pounds in just the first 30 days. Flatten the abs, shape your body, look and feel great. Again, I love OpenFit myself. If you are short on time, if you don't have time to make that commute to the gym, you don't want to pay that gym membership, you don't have time for a personal trainer, it's basically a personal trainer in your house. OpenFit has changed the way I work out, and with my code Shapiro, you can join me on a fitness journey personalized for you. Again, use that code Shapiro and start using OpenFit for your journey to a healthier life right now during the OpenFit 30-day challenge. My listeners get a special extended 30-day free trial membership to OpenFit. You can lose up to 15 pounds in 30 days. Text Shapiro to 303030. Get full access to OpenFit, the workouts, nutrition information, totally free. Text Shapiro to 303030. Okay, we're going to get to other Democratic strategies for 2020 coming up. Strategies that are going to have some pretty significant implications for your freedoms. First, head on over to Daily Wire and subscribe. For $9.99 a month, you can get a subscription to Daily Wire. When you do, you get the rest of the show live. You also get 2 additional hours of the show every day. We are working to bring you all the up-to-date information. Basically, our show goes all day long. So if you want to be part of that, all you have to do is go subscribe. Also, when you do subscribe, you get access to our Sunday specials. And our Sunday special this week is really, I think, an amazing Sunday special. I interviewed several people, several former members of the military who served at Normandy, because, of course, June 6th, D-Day, is coming up. I think it's something really moving and worthwhile, something that you're going to want to show to your kids and your friends. Here's a little bit of that.
A month after my 18th birthday, I was called up.
I was 18 years of age.
112 pounds.
I flew 36 combat missions over Germany.
I was a medic.
We were just assigned a mission, and it happened to be D-Day landing.
Mainly it was chaos.
I was so frightened. I was blacked out.
And in my mind was flashing through, there's a son, a father, that won't be coming home.
The reason you're sitting here today is because of what we did.
Of course, it's exactly true. Go check it out. It's the 75th anniversary of D-Day Special Edition for the Sunday Special. You get that on Saturday when you're a subscriber. There's also extra materials behind the paywalls, you know, the extra questions that I asked these amazing human beings. Go check it out. I think it's really, really worthwhile. Also, you can get the annual subscription for $99 a year. Along with that comes this, the very greatest in all beverage vessels, leftist year's hot or cold tumbler. It is indeed magical. Please subscribe also over at YouTube or iTunes. Give us a review. That always helps. Tell your friends about it. We appreciate it. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast and radio show in the nation.